We all make mistakes in our writing from time to time. It's totally natural. Even when we're writing in our first language, we'll still make the odd typo. And so if you're writing in a second language, in a situation like the writing test, where you're likely under a lot of stress, it's even more understandable that you may make some mistakes. But don't panic. By taking just a few minutes near the end of each writing task to quickly check your work for errors, you could really improve the quality of your response. To help you with this, I'm going to discuss a list of things to check when you go over your work. Of course, you can't actually bring this list into the test, but simply keeping the following points in mind while you're checking your work could make it easier for you. There are really two types of things to check for in your work. There are sentence-level mistakes, which include things like verb tense, spelling, and punctuation. And then there are format and style mistakes, which include things like paragraphing and sentence variety. We'll talk about sentence-level mistakes first. Okay, so the first point to check is, do I have proper punctuation between sentences? This covers things like periods and capitalization. Take a look at this. This is sentence 1. This is sentence 2. In this example, I forgot to add a capital to the second sentence. There, that's better. Mistakes like this should be fairly easy to check, and they shouldn't take too long to fix. Next up, do my subjects and verbs agree in each sentence? This point might be a bit more complicated to check, but as you read through your work, ask yourself, do your verbs match your subjects? Are they plural when they're supposed to be plural, and singular when they're supposed to be singular? Here's an example. Does your verbs match your subject? The verb does is incorrect in this example, so I'd fix it like this. The next point to consider, am I using the appropriate tense? You may want to review the task instructions here. For example, if the instructions require you to explain something that happened in the past, are you using past tense? If you're discussing your current opinion on something, are you using present tense? In this example, yesterday I go to class is incorrect. It should actually be the past tense went. Be sure to watch out for this, since using the correct tense can improve the clarity of your response. Okay, next, am I using correct articles and prepositions? Articles, a, an, the, can be easy words to forget if you're writing quickly. But if they're missing, their absence can also be easy to spot. Take this for example. I went to store. That noun really needs an article, so I can correct this by making it the store. And prepositions, like in, on, or at, can be easily forgotten as well. They're also commonly used incorrectly, so keep an eye out for these. And lastly, do I make any spelling mistakes? Now this one's a bit tricky. The writing test does include a spell check to help you with this, but it doesn't tell you whether the words you use are correct for that situation. For example, in the sentence, "What kind of pizza did you order?" Off is still incorrect, even though the word is spelled correctly, because it isn't used properly. So try and check for instances like this in your work. Now let's discuss some style areas that you should quickly check for in your writing. First, is my work split into appropriate paragraphs? Okay, this one's easy to check. If you've got multiple points to answer in the task instructions, do you have multiple paragraphs? If yes, great. If no, then it'll be pretty easy to spot, since your response will likely be one big block of text. But this is easily fixed. Next, do I repeat myself? This point is especially useful if you've gone over 200 words. If you've repeated your ideas in parts of your text, you should remove those sections in order to make your response more concise. If you have used the same words several times, you should try to replace them with words with similar meanings, in order to show the raters the range of your vocabulary. Have I answered all the task instructions? It's worth checking over the instructions to make sure you haven't missed anything. Some points in the task instructions can be quite minor, and if you've missed something, sometimes adding a sentence of explanation might be enough to fulfill these. In such cases, checking your work could really improve the quality of your response. Do I have a variety of sentence types? For example, are all my sentences short and simple? Or do I change things up with longer, more complex sentences? Take a look at this. Short sentences are fine. Long sentences are good too, though. They can demonstrate your grasp of sentence structure. I could change that to, short sentences are fine, but longer, more complex sentences can often better demonstrate your grasp of sentence structure. And lastly, do I begin and end my response appropriately? For task 1, this is really easy to check, since it's just referring to either end of your email. Do you include a greeting at the beginning and a sign-off at the end? For task 2, do you have an introduction sentence at the beginning and a brief concluding sentence at the end of the response? Alright, so we've covered some important things to check your work for. Keep in mind that although this list contains some of the most common and easy to spot mistakes, it doesn't include everything. And it's unlikely that any one test taker would make every single mistake on this list. But if you keep these points in mind as you check your work over the last couple minutes of your response time, they can help guide you. Now here's a quick example from a high-level response to show you what I mean. This is the first paragraph of a Task 1 response, where the writer had to complain about garbage in a local park. My name is Leo Fletcher, and I'm writing this email with regard to the amount of garbage that has been building up in our local park. As you are well aware, there are bins provided in the park to gather the garbage. However, some of our local residents fail to act upon this and needlessly thrown their garbage to the ground. There are 5 errors here. I'm going to give you, how about 15 seconds to check this over and spot the errors. Ready? Go. Okay, stop. Did you spot the errors? Here's a corrected version now. As you can see, where should actually be aware. We've got 2 instances where the wrong spelling of there is used, and thrown should actually be present tense instead. And the correct preposition in this context is on the ground, not to the ground. So as you can see, even a high-level response can include various errors. But had this test taker set aside a few minutes for review, he likely would have been able to spot and fix these mistakes. Again, keep in mind that the checklist in this video does not include every single error to check for, but it can still be used as a guide. If you're going to remember one thing from this video, it's this. Regardless of what sorts of errors you may make in your writing, taking just a couple minutes near the end of your response to check over your work can really strengthen your response.